You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Spring will be here soon, so if buying a new home is on your to-do list, right now is the time to call Quicken Loans. Learn about which mortgage options make sense for you and get a jump on your competition. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Hi, welcome to this Subway ad for the new Sesame Ginger Glazed Chicken Signature Wrap. How would you like it?
I'll take a...
Sports announcer at home?
Yeah, how'd you...
We just know.
My wife picks up the new Signature Wrap. It's got double the rotisserie-style chicken mixed with a sesame ginger glaze. She appears annoyed at me, but she shrugs it off. Those sweet and savory flavors are calling her name. She lifts the wrap and... she takes the bite! Incredible! And now she's closing the door on my... Subway, make it what you want.
Limited time only at participating restaurants. Double meat based on average 6-inch sub.
I'm little teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
A purple mountain majesties over the fruited plain. But now wait a minute, I'm talking about America. You know, God done shed his grace on thee.
Oh, good evening, everybody. This is Liz Feld. It is Monday, April 29th, and welcome to For Immediate Release. I'm joined by my colleague and friend, Billy O'Reilly. Billy, you there?
How you doing, Liz? How's it going?
Good. Nothing to talk about again this week. Nothing new.
Hey, I just saw you were just tweeted or Boone Pickens, Steve Boone Pickens, I guess Boone Pickens was just tweeting about you, and I didn't know anything about that. That sounded pretty interesting. What was that about?
Well, I was going to keep it a secret, so I'm so glad he tweeted it. No.
Oh, it's a good story.
I wonder if we're always really against us. Oh, Boone Pickens. Yeah. Oh, he's tremendous. Well, that's a good way to start. Okay, we'll start right there.
I'm going right after you.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. I had the spectacular privilege. It was a blast, but also was an incredible learning experience for me to go spend 2 days down at Boone Pickens Ranch in Mesa Vista, Texas, which is about an hour by plane ride north of Amarillo, with a group of about a dozen very esteemed leaders from around the country in different fields. But we all came together to talk about and map a strategy for the Brain Health Project, which is an initiative at UT Dallas. So it's partly funded by UT Dallas, but it's an independent project. And the big picture goal of the project is to double brain health and brain power over the next 10 years. But really the idea is to get people, individuals everywhere, to understand that we have a lot more control over not only our brain health today, but the trajectory of our brain development than we ever thought we did. That it's not cast in stone that you're automatically going to start deteriorating your cognitive capacity when you start to get a little bit older. That much like we learn with heart health and other physical fitness, we have the same control over our brain health. And what's happened in watching the statistics and over really the last 30 years or so is that our lifespan is increasing all the time, but our brain span has not. So we've got people who are physically fit, living into their 90s, but who have had real cognitive decline, and a lot of that can be improved by behavior. So we are this, yeah, exactly. So, and it's everything from, the focus here is on everything from reducing stress levels and depressive symptoms and sleep disturbances to building cognitive resilience and reserve to prevent Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative or neurodevelopmental and neurodegenerative conditions. So really, the project is looking to build a cohort of about 120,000 people around the country. So, but about 12,000 a year over 10 years, all ages. But there's an adolescent cohort, and then the rest are adults, and they're going to participate in this project and be monitored. And some of it will be self-assessment. So every month you go online and you say, this is what I've done, and this is how I feel better. I do more meditating, I eat better, I exercise more, I do the New York Times crossword puzzle, whatever. And other folks will be involved in a much more intensive part of the trial, which will be getting regular brain scans, MRI stuff, and doing regular integrative reasoning and cognitive testing. And it's just really cool. The people who are involved in it are world class from both academic and medical institutions around the country. And I got to know some of them. One of the leaders is Jeff Ling, who you and I have talked about, who was the founder of the biotech unit in DARPA. He is actually he's still at Johns Hopkins. He's a practicing neurologist. And he does a lot. He's really one of the foremost, if not the foremost, traumatic brain injury doctor in the world. And he's a retired Army colonel. So he's leading this, and he got me involved with this because he and I have been working on some other stuff. And Sandy Chapman, who's the director, is a behavioral and brain science expert who really, this was really her idea. She got the whole thing started, and she brought in Bill McRaven, who is really a U.S. treasure, as you may know him more as the guy who caught bin Laden. Yep. So he's a retired admiral, and he and his wife are the national spokespeople, and but very involved in leading this, and certainly in leading the fundraising. But we had this team of 12 folks down there, and several others from different business sectors. There's engineers to almost have a Shark Tank like 2 days to figure out how to recruit people to the project and also to spread the word. Because it's really cool. It's very empowering. For the average consumer, this is really about taking control of your own brain health. So it's really exciting. It was a lot of fun. And Boone Pickens was there. He hosted it. And he's so generous. He has done this for many years for different initiatives that he really cares about. He's obviously done a lot in the energy space. But
I was going to ask how he got involved in that. I had no idea he was working in
He's a good Texan.
that realm.
He's a good Texan. So this was the second one he hosted for this particular project, and he actually participated in the whole thing and was the judge in our little Shark Tank competition among our teams. It was it was really cool, and the ranch is spectacular. Billy, it is 5 times the size of Manhattan.
No way.
68,000 acres. It is magnificent. So that in itself was such a treat. I mean, it was a half an hour just to get from his private airfield on his property to the lodge, all on his own space. I mean, really the coolest thing. But like I said, it was such a treat. And then he wrote a beautiful, blog about it the other day, and then which he distributed on social media. So that's how you saw it. That's my long intro. So now
he's really amazing. I mean, he never seems to get older. I got to meet him about 10 years ago in New York. There was we were doing public relations for a company, pizza trucks, and you think, like, how does Boone Pickens get involved in this? And they were doing pizza trucks. They were building the pizza trucks out of Harlem. It was called Neapolitan Pizza and Neapolitan Express, and which is still going very, very strong. And they were making these great pizzas with ingredients from Italy, et cetera, et cetera. But they were making them all with natural gas. The trucks were all fueled with natural gas, and the pizza ovens were natural gas. When it was 900 degrees, they're making a pizza in like 3.5 minutes. And so they reached out to Boone Pickens, or we did, or somebody did, to see if he would be interested in doing a press conference about this in New York, because he was pushing natural gas. And sure enough, Boone Pickens says yes. And so we got Michael Bloomberg, who was the then mayor of New York, who apparently always wanted to meet Boone Pickens and was a big admirer, to do the news conference with him. And there was this like fantastic show down at City Hall. There were 8 million cameras, and they gave they must have given pizza out to half city. They just said pizza was free, and Pickens was so funny. He was just so personable, and like he instantly makes you comfortable. And that was my impression. It sounds like you probably had a similar experience.
Well, you just have to admire and respect and just like someone who stays in the game. He's in his early 90s, and he continues to do things that he really cares about. He's also got a great sense of humor, and he's certainly diminished. He's a bit, but he had a fall not that long ago, and that has taken its toll. But boy, he's so committed and obviously so philanthropic, but he doesn't care politically what side people are on. He just wants to get stuff done. And he's had this energy agenda for so long. And, you just wish that other people would live. You see what's coming out now. You wish people would actually go, by people, I mean, these elected officials, go back and talk to folks like Pickens, who have been at this for 60 years.
Yeah.
Understand the global economy and the United States reliance on oil and why we need it and why we have, just all of it, that wind and solar have their place, but you can't sacrifice oil for that. The need for oil and gas, and just the interconnectedness of all of these parts. But so anyway, again, no agenda other than trying to do right for the world before he moves on to the next world. So
yeah, but he
loved it.
But he addresses serious topics, but he manages to do it without being too serious. You know what I mean? He's just got this light way about him, and that's such a rarity today. People get so darn like irascible or nasty, and there's not a touch of that with him.
No, and I just love what you said about the pizza truck. It makes so much sense. You could see him doing that. He wasn't going, well, how does this fit in my image?
And it's funny because I always knew that Boone Pickens was a major figure, and I've been hearing his name since I was a kid. but I'm not sure I realized how big a figure he was until I saw how Mike Bloomberg reacted to his name. He was saying like, Boone Pickens is coming. It was like, to him, he was this monster figure. And Bloomberg's a pretty big figure himself, both in the political world, but certainly in the business world. And he thought Boone Pickens was a giant. He said, I always wanted to meet Boone Pickens. And, that was pretty impressive to me,
So, yeah,
But
like Thoreau in the same era.
That's right. Exactly. Yep.
The same era. So I don't know what you do. I mean, his ranch is on the market, $250 million. If there are any buyers out there, just text me.
Yep.
Just beautiful. And God, I've spent a fair amount of time in Dallas and over the last 6 months or so, and it's been such a treat. I don't know how much if you've done much down there, politically or otherwise, but it's a great place. The whole state, the whole dynamic. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, that's great. I lost you for a second there, Liz. We had a little bit of a timeout on the connection, but I think you were talking about Texas.
Yeah,
I assume, is that right?
I don't know if you spent much time. Yeah, it's just so exciting. I mean, it really is a world away. It's its country unto itself, for sure. By world away, I don't mean geographically, culturally.
Yeah, that's. I mean, my grandfather hailed from Texas, and his father was a Texas sheriff in Duval County down in Brush Country, and I of course grew up in New York City, so it's a very different world. But I have a lot of relatives down in Texas and Dallas and in Houston especially, and but I've never spent that much time down there. Just a couple of trips in and out. And my wife loves Texas. She just I think she could move there in a heartbeat. But I'd like to spend more time because you're right. It's like a whole different country. Yeah, it's a whole different attitude. Go big or go home, right?
It's so true. And also, it is like I said, it is its own. And listen, New York State politics is too. Is that upstate so different from downstate? But in Texas, you've got you got Ted Cruz, and then you've got the border stuff, and then you've got Beto, and then you've got the Panhandle. The culture is different in every Houston and Dallas, quite different. Really cool.
Yeah, really, really cool. Speaking of Beto, whatever happened to him? I think I talked to you earlier, and I said Beto, and you said Beto who?
Yes. Yeah. Would you say?
What's funny? On one hand, you say what happened to Beto O'Rourke. On the other hand, he's tied with Trump in Texas, but the four Democrats tied with Trump in Texas. So maybe it's not that much of an accomplishment, at this moment in time. But boy, he's taken a fall though. Not to do a non sequitur, but it's that guy had the spotlight, and it sounds like Buttigieg kind of ate his lunch.
Well, it does look like that, and maybe he's writing policy papers at night with a miner's lamp. I don't know, but. I mean, the clock is ticking already for the primary. You've got 20 people, and you've got your first primary in February or your first caucus in February, which means you got about 7 months. And to go basically dark for 3 weeks or a month now to let someone like Buttigieg come right up on the side and take over, risky unless he's got a strategy. Maybe Beto's got some secret strategy, but it makes no sense to me unless the press has already abandoned him.
I always find that that's one of the great challenges of doing campaigns is when the spotlight's on you, you have to be fully prepared to keep rolling things out, and to when it's on you, you need material to keep going. And I've made the mistake over the years of successfully getting attention for candidates, but we weren't ready for it. And it comes there, and the spotlight's on there, and you get washed out if you're not fully prepared, if you're not staffed up, if you're not, you could just get buried with the requests and the rest of it, and you stop thinking and looking forward. We saw that I think a little bit with Carly Fiorina in 2014, where she had that moment in the sun where she hit 25 or so, and it was after the second debate, and she was beginning to cook a little bit, and then she just wasn't ready to capture the moment, and then you disappear if that happens. And it seems like maybe that happened with Beto. He may get another shot. Who knows? But you don't always. It just doesn't come up again.
Yeah, he could buy some attention with that money. But it's interesting you said that. And Philly, would you say that, and in a case like Carly Fiorina, that they really never anticipated that they'd get to 25%, so they never staffed up, or they didn't have the money, or they just never had a strategy? What could it be?
Yeah. It's I think she had to just jump into the conversation that way. I met with her up in Albany in 2014 when she was getting in, and our firm did a little bit of work for her in New York. And I thought she had a really clear lane. She was the outside business person with a pretty good message. She had challenges because she came from the corporate world, and in the corporate world, there's always firings and restructurings and that kind of stuff. But she was she's tough. She's smart as a whip. Knew a lot of world leaders and had a really good conversation. And I think her there was a little bit of a populist streak in her where she was talking about the rigged system out there, and that the way the government is set up is that big companies can pay to bend laws and change things, and the little guy can't. And it was a really good conversation, and I thought she was decently positioned really early in that field. But when Trump got in there, that lane got shut down totally. I mean, he shut down so many lanes because he was just so damn loud, and he played the outside populist, and so he kind of stole that lane. But I really liked her, and I thought she deserved to do better. But that race was just so weird, the way it worked out. How do you think, Liz? How do you think Biden's looking so far in his first official few days in the race?
Oh, I think he's looking youthful and spry.
Verve and vigor, right? Viv and vigor.
I think he's looking probably as good as he could look, right? I guess it's certainly physically energetic. I mean, there was a lot of analysis on day one about should he have done a video as his announcement from part of the rollout, and is that the new norm? But was he hiding? I mean, who cares? Here we are. He did it. He's out there. I was just reading some analysis right before the show, that his strategy is not, he's got to run sort of a war on two fronts. One is demonstrating that he's the guy who can beat Trump, but secondly, that he is acceptable to Democrats. And I think if you have to prove that, you got a problem. Now, I say that Trump had
right.
He was acceptable to Republicans because he certainly didn't have the strong history with the party. But Trump is such an outlier. I don't think we can compare any path to Trump's path, right, to the presidency. But for Biden to have to prove his bona fides after having been the vice president and been in the party and raised a ton of money and been a leader and held every position on the planet, with the Senate, and that part to me now that says that the far left has really taken over. That he's going to prove that he's left enough is not a good thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm trying desperately not to overthink it this time, because in 2014 I was one of those people who overthought it, and I was like, "There's no way Trump can win," and I explained a million reasons why and wrote a bunch of columns on it. And sometimes I thought he could win. I mean, I don't want to be too hard on myself. Sometimes I thought, hey, this guy does have it going on, but I overthink campaigns sometimes. So I'm trying to look at this from 1,000 feet up, and from 1,000 feet up, Biden looks like such the obvious choice for the Democrats to me. But then again, I'm white male American, and I don't want to mean to talk like a Democrat, but it's like Biden to me is the obvious choice to beat Trump if you're a Democrat. He doesn't freak out moderate Republicans. He takes a lot of independents. He's a union guy. He's like a Dick Gephardt. He could talk to those union states, Midwestern states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, et cetera, Wisconsin. He's safe. And so I'm sticking with that for now. But just thinking eventually they're going to come back to him. I mean, he's there now. I don't think he needs to be too flashy or to run down into every city and state and town like the rest of them, because he's been around a long time. And I think, frankly, if he does that, he'll wear himself out and maybe make mistakes that will trip himself up. But that's 1,000 feet out. But to me, Trump has been pounding away at him on Twitter for the last 48 hours.
Yes.
And which suggests to me that, weakness, unless Trump's being diabolical and you're trying to help the weakest candidate by attacking him. But I don't think Trump's being diabolical. I think Biden poses the greatest threat to him, specifically because those states, and others have said it, those states that Trump took that made him president are Biden states. Those are strong points for him.
Do you think that he is apologizing too much or over-explaining the Anita Hill period of his life? I mean, there seems to be an extraordinary amount of attention on that.
Yeah, I think he's over explaining, and that's why I'm trying not to overthink it. It's like, and maybe that's, from living in a country where where Donald Trump is president, where every day you can go up and down these roller coaster rides and you can go through the news cycle and drive yourself crazy. And so I'm really not riding the news cycles with Biden and with these candidates. I'm trying to just see the long game. I don't think he needs to over-explain. Anita Hill, I mean, how many Americans even remember who Anita Hill is?
That's exactly.
I mean, that was, I know it was 100 years ago, but it was a long time ago. It's like, I could care less. I don't mean to sound rude, but I could care less about the Anita Hill story right now. You know what I mean? It's so long ago.
No, I think that's
right. I mean, he was Obama's vice president for 8 years. That should be enough to the progressives, that you'd think. And for the ones for which that's not enough, let them divide themselves between the other 19 candidates.
One of the things that I didn't understand, so there was obviously a lot of chatter right from the beginning about whether Obama would endorse Biden or not, and why. And no, he said he wouldn't. But what's Biden going to say? And I don't know why someone hasn't just come right out in Biden's camp or Biden himself and say, well, I got the best endorsement Obama could ever give. He picked me to be his vice president. Like, end of story.
They need you.
Period. I got it. I got it. In fact, I got it twice. I got it
twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I just don't know why there was any need to defend, well, it's a primary, and well, this, and I talked to him, and I don't really want his endorsement because he get a couple. Shut up. He was the most popular president for a very long time. You had his endorsement. That's all you have to say.
Right. Well, but that's always been Biden's problem, is that, right, he's always explaining himself. I mean, if you remember, he started out by calling Obama articulate. You remember that one? And it was like, oh man, he's articulate, man. And he got beaten up for that.
Yeah.
But he recovered from it. But he's all, but that was always kind of the charm of Joe Biden was he just, Joe Bidenisms. They were like hilarious, he'd say, stand up, man, at a rally to somebody who was in a wheelchair. It was like, Joe, please stop it, please don't, But he seems to have overcome that a little bit, and he should definitely not try too hard explaining himself. You're 100% right, because he's just going to walk into it again.
I don't get it. It's true. He certainly looks healthy. He always looks energetic.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
I guess you kind of.
I've gotten to like him over the years, and I beat him up a few times in columns. I used to, the crazy old uncle at the Thanksgiving table, and you can smell the aqua velva, and you do all those kind of lines. But when someone sticks around long enough, and I'm a Republican, or at least I'm conservative, so Biden's not naturally a candidate for me. But as a man, as an American, you stick around that long and you contribute that long, you get respect from me anyway. So I respect the guy quite a bit, and I think he's going to do well. I really do. I think he just froze the field in the last few days. He was able to raise enough money early on, and I may be proven wrong. I'm not saying that he stays, the prohibitive favorite. I think he's at 30 now or whatever, or somewhere around there in the averages, with Bernie underneath him. But I think the polls will fluctuate, and other candidates will have their moment in the sun. But I think he's the guy they're going to go back to. Are you still thinking Kamala Harris? That's what Newt Gingrich says, by the way. He agrees with you.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, I think she's got Harris. I would say that I think right out of the gate, I agree with what you said. I like Biden. I would say I can't help myself, but I could. I like him, and I think he's solid enough. And I think he's very more than acceptable. I think he'd be cheered by a lot of moderate Republicans if and a lot of others if Trump, actually he runs again. Which he's going to, but I'm just, I'm saying if it's the two of them, it's a head-to-head matchup. I think there'll be plenty of defectors, and especially with this. I guess I don't know if he'll say it, but some implied commitment that he'll only run for one term, and people are looking. But there's no question the economy is quite strong, and you can see that Biden's already going after that. I saw some of his remarks in Pittsburgh last night, where he just said, yeah, the economy is fine, but it's not really helping everybody. And, when you have that's been the same line that they always say, But things are going pretty well for a lot of folks, and unemployment numbers don't lie. So I guess he's going to run on tone. I wonder if it's real. If you have any thoughts on the fact that he said what was ultimately in his soul the motivating factor to get in the race was Charlottesville. I don't know if that's a contrived.
Yeah, I assume that everything is contrived. I'm just, I'm a cynic, and I come, we work in the business.
Yeah, you're
and
yourself.
Yeah, totally. I assume that was poll tested or gut checked or something, but I don't think you need Charlottesville to say that you want to run for president. I think you could choose lots of things that, you could just want to be president because you think you could do a better job, but I think he needed to pivot on something. I think it's fine, like you said, it puts him in the race. It sticks him in the race. But I really think, though, I said it before, but I really feel strongly that he does not need to run around the country like other candidates. I suspect that they're going to do that. And like McCain did that, and I thought it was a huge mistake. Like McCain could be a little bit, you come to the mountain a little bit. Like you get to that stature in life in America where you don't have to be, you don't have to be doing the retail stuff like everybody else.
Right.
But he will. But we'll see how we'll see what happens. But I don't see anyone else doing particularly well. I think Kamala has been a little frozen. Frankly, she may not have been ready for the spotlight when it came, but I think she'll clearly get a second pass at it. Like who do you think, Liz?
Yeah.
Who are the ones watch from your estimation? I mean, you've worked on a whole bunch of presidential campaigns. You've been deeply involved, and you've been a consumer of campaigns as well. Who would be the ones that you'd say really stand a chance?
I'm going to stick with my Kamala pick from months ago. There's something about her. She just works. She just has that balance. I don't know how much of it is rehearsed and studied, and how much is just what got her where she is now, or a combination of the two. But I'm sticking with her for sure.
Yeah.
I think Buttigieg probably ends up looking like a very attractive vice president to somebody. I think he's real and he represents a lot. I've several people who've told me there's just no way on earth this country is electing a gay president, which is sad to me. More than sad. I'd like to think we have come farther, pretty far, but that's what a lot of folks say. I don't know if you feel that way too, but I like him, and I think I think voters would. I think they would. That they'd vote for him. Yeah.
I think they would vote for him as long as they didn't seem, and here I'm going to get in trouble for stereotyping, but if he didn't seem like an angry gay candidate, you know what I mean? And he's not. He's a guy who talks about faith and talks about his religion and that kind of thing. I think he could be elected. But go ahead. Do your list though.
Or if that were his only platform, which kind of gets back to the I'm the woman, like Hillary's woman thing. I thought she overplayed that forever and ever. I think I'm with her was probably the worst slogan in history.
Right.
As opposed to I'm for you, what might would have been a little bit better. But anyway, I was sort of thinking, I wonder who else Biden is completely knocked out right now by being in the race. And I think Cory Booker is probably one of those people. I think they both inner city folks, blue collar, whatever, likable, but so there's not enough room for all of that, the same types. So I think he takes some of those votes. I sense that Bernie's pretty isolated. As strong as he is, I don't feel like anyone else running is rooting for Bernie. As opposed to some of these other candidates that a bunch of them would get behind, if you will, if they got out. I think he's on his own, which is never a good thing.
Right.
I think they're rooting against him. So I think I don't see Amy Klobuchar catching fire, as confident as she is, and I don't see her catching fire. Elizabeth Warren has
a great
power. I think Elizabeth Warren through the early primaries for sure. I think just because she's serious, she's being treated seriously by the press. She's well liked by the audience she's in front of. I don't know how her long-term fundraising will go, but I think she's the real deal. I don't agree with the things she says, but I think she's the real deal on, I think she believes what she says. Do you?
Yeah. I don't think there's any question. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much in the same category you are. I think that Booker could have a moment if he has a good debate, but the trouble is with the Democrats this time is what the Republicans, the problem that Republicans had last time, where the stage is so full. You've got, and the fuller the stage, the more pressure on the candidate to say something brilliant and engaging and charming and noteworthy in 5 seconds, and that is really hard to do. Yeah. And the pressure the pressure's enormous up there. You'd be better off with 2 or 3 candidates. You can kind of get your groove up on a debate stage, but with that many, it's really hard to break out of the pack. I think Booker could have a breakout moment or two because he can riff pretty well. Like he can, I think he may have a little bit of play in him. I don't think he goes too far, but I think you're right. I think Bernie kind of sticks where he is. I think the vote that he's got is fairly solid vote. The vote he has right now, reasonably solid. I mean, there's there's a year and a half to go, so it's tons of time. But I don't think he collapses from 23% to 2 or 3. I think he's got his voting base, and it's significant. But I'm not sure that he can grow it out that much. I think Biden has room to drop a little bit, gain a little bit. I think he's in play. I think Kamala Harris, I agree with you. She's got the most potential to. She makes sense on a lot of different fronts, and I could see her either as a presidential or VP. And I'm not sticking the woman on the VP slot, or maybe I am, but that's not why. I just think she's a new figure on stage. If Biden's the one, she might make a lot of sense geographically, ethnically, in a million different ways. I think Buttigieg stays interesting, but he's just he's too green. The others, I mean, Gillibrand, no. I mean, there's so many that are just so far in over their head that I don't think that they're relevant at all. But they're going to tie up those stages, and that's the, as you and others know, those debate stages are the moment where you can actually break out and become, you can become endearing to the public very, very quickly and have a little run. But when the stage has, they're not going to have 20 candidates on the stage. I assume they'll do 2 sets of debates, but even 10 or 7 or 8 candidates on the stage is too many.
It is too many.
It's just way too many. Yeah.
So is it all still the age-old money game? I mean, obviously the press feeds the gets you the then it helps you fundraising, and then the fundraising helps you buy some press, and and so it goes. But a breakout moment on stage can't raise you $30 million in 2 weeks. I guess right. I don't know how people like Tulsi Gabbard, what are they doing in this race? What is the purpose? And I'm all for an underdog, but what makes someone like that actually launch a campaign? Does she have such a unique message that she thinks somehow she's either going to drive the agenda, or that suddenly she's going to get some spectacular profile in 60 Minutes and she'll become real? I don't know why anyone would get behind a candidate like that now.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I suspect that some of them just want to have run for president. I ran for president. My grandfather ran for president once. That kind of thing. But to do that, I think you could do that running at a little bit of a lower level to get better known in order to come back and run again. But going for president and flaming out that badly is pretty much the end of your career politically. And I think some of these candidates that are jumping in are going to be jumping out so quickly. They're going to be vulnerable in their own states and seats, either to other Democrats or to Republicans that can knock them off. But I agree with you, Liz. I don't get what some of them are thinking. And there are names out there. I'm almost afraid to go through the list because I'm going to forget 8 of them, or I just won't. You can't even remember their names. And I know who they are, but you'd have to be reminded of them. And it's it's a tough thing.
One of the things I was thinking about Beto, which I momentarily thought was an advantage, and now I don't, was that he's not in office right now. So I thought, wow, he can run around. He's got all the time to travel and raise money and meet voters and shake hands, do the retail thing, like you said, do a cross-country bus tour. He's not tethered to the Capitol Hill schedule, or mayor or governor, needing to be back, quote unquote, home. But how is that a limiting factor or actually a benefit when you're someone like that? I mean, does he not have an existing platform? He's just making stuff up as he goes along? Because the country really doesn't know him. They don't know him. The country does not know Beto O'Rourke. They don't.
Yeah, I think most people would say that it's an inhibiting factor, that you don't have that natural platform built in where you have a press corps that's covering you every day as, say, a governor or as a senator. But I tend to agree with you, Liz. I tend to think that maybe there's some benefit to that because he's well enough known, at least among the press, where if he and his team come up with some interesting play, they'll get coverage. If they package a tour that's a little bit fun, a little bit, gimmicky, they can get that attention while he's not tied to votes and to legislative calendars. I think I'd view it as a plus, actually, but I think a lot of people would disagree with that. But on the money issue that you mentioned, that it's just been amazing these last few years for the Democrats how much money has come to the front, like in races large and small, from dog catcher president. It seems there are just unlimited dollars available to Democrats these days. And I mean, just in the House races that I worked in the last cycle, they were raising, 10, 15, $20 million for House races. I mean, plus the IE money. I mean, just enormous amounts of money. And so I think any of the Democrats that get any kind of foothold will be quickly rewarded with money.
So is that money coming from Emily's List and MoveOn.org and that kind of stuff, or are you talking about those small?
Yeah, like Code Blue and all the groups that have been put together on the left. I mean, they've really got their act together on the fundraising side. I think we talked once before about it in 2014, I guess, 2014 in New York 19. I was working with John Faso, who ended up winning. He ran against a woman named very, very bright candidate on the left named Zephyr Teachout, and she had something in the range of 300,000 donors. 300,000 donors for a race, and she wasn't even. I mean, most of it was outside money, and it was a lot of small donors, but 300,000 of anything is a lot. And but so there's these networks that seem to be the small donor networks seem to be really, really active and kind of shifting protean, where they'll go with who's breaking out, and they seem to move pretty quickly. So I don't think there'll be a problem with money on the Democratic side or on the Republican side. I understand that Trump is out raising everybody, which is no surprise. He's an incumbent president and could certainly fall back on his own money if he had to. But I think there's going to be plenty out there for the ones in the pack. But for the ones out of the pack, I mean, they're going to struggle to get any kind of attention whatsoever.
So speaking of Trump, so I saw a couple of numbers, but his poll numbers dropped about 5 points right after the Mueller report. I don't know if that's going to be, he'll rally again. I mean, the economic numbers have been pretty strong, very strong the last couple of weeks. Do you think that the Mueller stuff's over? I mean, I don't mean legally, but knowing that the average guy in the street doesn't care about Hill hearings and who's Will Barr and who's getting former people getting subpoenaed to talk some more about the Russians. Does anyone care?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's effectively over. I think once there weren't indictments, or there were no. I mean, they weren't going to indict a sitting president, obviously, but I think one down that there wasn't that smoking gun Russia collusion connection. That was pretty much it. Although it's funny, I had dinner with an old friend last night, a guy I hadn't seen in a long, long time, very bright and Republican, and he walked in and he said, I just can't believe the Mueller report. And I said, oh, how's that? And he said, it was so bad. He was like, how does Trump possibly survive that? And I guess he was someone who actually read a lot of it. And that seems to be, people who read it, which is a very, very small minority, walk away going, ooh, yikes. But people who just take the news coverage of it, I think, assume that he got through it. I assume that he got through it. He survived it. And, which is not to say that he's not going to get in trouble on other matters, through the Attorney General in New York and maybe other jurisdictions. But what do you think? I think he mostly got through it, but I don't think he got through it looking great. I think there's enough in there that the American public, like I saw the polling on it, and the American public did, it did have an impact. Like they overwhelmingly thought that he was lying a lot to them, and that that's not great. Although it's not news for Trump.
Well, and so Mitt Romney was the most well-regarded, not just well-known, but well-regarded Republican leader who came out immediately with a statement just saying he was appalled at the whole thing, putting aside, as you said, no indictment and no obstruction and no collusion, that the behavior of so many people at the highest levels was so appalling that it needed to be examined. Just because, or that we need to take a look at ourselves and say, is this really what we're willing to stand for? But interestingly, nobody who, I don't know, I'm thinking, did anyone follow suit? I mean, other than Romney, he was kind of out there on his own with that.
He was out there on his own with that. I think that's right. I mean, the other one was, Bill Weld was out there, but he's now running for president, on the Republican side. And so that that makes sense that he would do that, and I think Weld certainly believes it. He's a former prosecutor, so I think he certainly believes it. But you're right. Romney was really out there by himself. I mean, none of the. I think maybe who's the senator retiring? Not Cobra. I'm blanking on the name, but a couple of other ones were somewhat critical, but largely Romney was out there by himself, which I don't think is necessarily a bad place to be. But he didn't get helped at all there.
We haven't heard from.
What do you think? What are your thoughts, by the way, on Bill Weld, running?
What's your next question?
What's that? Next question.
I just can't.
I
don't mean to be disrespectful. I really don't. But I just can't. I just can't take that seriously. I guess probably because he just did the Gary Johnson run as an independent, and so I wonder if there's another way for someone like Bill Weld to contribute to what's going on, other than running for president. Because I don't know what he's done in the last 4 years or what he did the 4 years before that, before he ran. And I know he's practicing law and he's done a lot of very valuable, meaningful public service over the years, but I just don't understand it. I don't understand it from like I was saying earlier about other candidates who are running who have no shot. And I don't know if he just is doing it to be a stalking horse or for someone else who's going to come along and just to get, kind of get the ball rolling. So if so other Republicans have the guts to primary Trump or not. But I just can't take it that seriously. Can you?
Yeah, I mean, I went on his site today and I was able to listen to his campaign chairman at a meeting in Washington a couple of weeks ago, and who was very, very good and engaging. And I was on the site today and looking at some of the. I think he had a piece over the weekend that he wrote someplace, and there was they were explaining their strategy. Right up front, they're going to go after New Hampshire big time and try and score a great upset in New Hampshire. And then go after states where independents and Democrats can vote in the Republican primary. But I admire the fact that he's willing to do it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Liz?
No, you're right. I should.
But I admire.
You have not.
I admire that he's willing to do it, and he talks a lot about and Weld. I worked on a race against him in 2016 in New York, a primary against him, and I was never really in his camp. And we disagree on a bunch of things, mostly on the social side, but he is a strong fiscal conservative, and he's making arguments about the Constitution and the importance of the Constitution, and I really think that those are valuable for the country, whether or not he can upset a sitting president. I think they're important conversations to have for Republicans, and so I'm actually glad he's doing.
Yes, I do. You're right. You're right. But do you think he's...
Because, I mean, he just... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, who's helping him? How is he going to do this on his own?
He has a Stuart Stevens as a consultant, and who's the woman? I'm blanking on her name. Who's the campaign manager? I assume it's a pretty small operation. I think they're working out of Boston, and I assume they don't have a lot of money to do a big staff. But I'm curious to see whether he can inject himself into the conversation. And it would be so hard. I mean, I don't know that has it ever been done? Has it been knocked out in a primary for not in recent years certainly, but he certainly has a lot of material to work with. But I think he could do a service just by running and challenging and asking questions that need to be asked within the Republican side, and to remind Republicans what they used to believe in fiscal conservatism, in foreign policy, in personal behavior, and in the importance of constitutional rules and safeguards. But we'll see. I mean, he's brand new, so we'll see what he can do. It was obviously hard as a libertarian. I mean, that in retrospect probably should not have done that.
No, there was nothing. I agree with you. And again, I completely respect the principled approach. Why he's doing it, and some of the substance of his message. Like I would like to see if you're going to take out the king, you better have a coordinated effort to do it with people behind you, right. And I don't just mean a campaign manager, with enough people to make a difference, or at least to get a real dialogue going about this, whether it's the Constitution, the conservatives on the Constitution, like you said, or some of the other stuff. How about spending? We haven't even talked about that since in 2 weeks. There's nothing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Have you seen these proposals from Elizabeth Warren about forgiving all the debt? Trillions of dollars, just nuts.
It's nuts. I'm like a broken record on the column. I'm doing a column that hopefully I'll finish tomorrow morning, but it's about the same thing again. I just can't help it, and it's just I don't know. And the lead of the column is basically I'm not sure who's being more unserious, the candidates for president or the electorate itself. I mean, it's. I was looking at a Pew Research study, and an overwhelming number of Americans want more spending on everything. I mean, we still want more spending. There's just no. It's a very small minority that wants less spending. They broke out 13 different areas for spending, and the poll was worded in ways that made it very easy to say yes, I want more. Veteran services and to help those in most need, that kind of stuff. But there seems to be no slowdown whatsoever. It's like a looting mentality. It feels like, where we all want to get ours before the whole thing, before all the loot's gone. But it's a really unhealthy. Like I ask in the piece whether Americans need a psychiatrist. It just we're $23 trillion and we're accelerating the gap. Like what? By the way, speaking of crazy, did you see the New York Times cartoon, the anti-Semitic one?
Oh my God. Oh, I certainly
did. You see it?
I did. I had not seen it when it first ran, and then I saw the blowback and was shocked.
I was too, and usually when everyone's outraged about something, I'm always the one that's, oh please. I mean, what was it really? I always think people are exaggerating, but you take one look at that cartoon, and it's like it's bad. You know what I mean? That's stuff out of like 1932 Germany. Like what were they thinking?
And then the faux apology, which is always the most insulting of everything. Usually in these quote unquote scandals, it's the bad apology that really does it.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't seen it, and I'm looking at it right now. Actually, Drudge has it up, and it's a picture of there's a dachshund, like a dachshund dog. I assume it's a dachshund, a very long dog, and it's got Netanyahu's face on it, and with a collar with the Star of David on the collar, and it's being walked on a leash by kind of a hunched over Donald Trump wearing all black and a black yarmulke. And it's like, I mean, it's just you like, were you kidding me?
Yeah, that's
you take one look at it, and it just screams. It screams. It screams. But frankly, I'm a little glad to see the Times get busted because they've been so bad in this area for a long time. I think.
I agree.
And when I say they, I'm talking about the editorial side. I'm not talking about I'm not saying reporters. There's a difference there.
Yeah. Oh God, I don't know. Can we get back to the Democrats for a minute? Because I meant to ask you something.
Yeah.
What do we think, or what do you think about Bill and Hillary now and the role they're going to play at all? I know they're out on their tour. I'm not sure how the crowds are going and how the reception has been. I did see a clip that she was reading from the Mueller report. I just don't think that's what she's, in that regard, she's preaching to the choir. The people sitting there are, of course, going to cheer. But by the way, no one should cheer for the Mueller report. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I don't care what side you're on. It's horrible. What do you think? What's their role? Help people raise money? Or is their endorsement valuable to any candidate?
They're totally embarrassing themselves.
Yeah.
I think they're totally embarrassing themselves. I think Bill Clinton is ridiculous. He's in like buffoon territory where he just screams sexual harassment. It's like, maybe he was able to elude it for a long time, but history caught up with him, and they should stick him in a closet and shut the door and hammer it with nails and turn out the lights and maybe put some boards over the door and hammer those in too. Because I think just the whiff of Bill Clinton, even with all his talents, I think just screams of something the Democrats don't want to talk about. And Hillary is like, come on, stop it. Stop. Hillary, stop. You know what I mean? Do the grandchildren thing. Do whatever you want. Like, stop. Your time is done. And, and she just seems like she can't get over 2014. And that's my take. And I'm not even a Hillary. I can't stand Bill Clinton, and I'll be right up front about it. Hillary, I'm certainly not a fan, but they live near here and everything. But I met her a couple of times. She was nice, and I don't like viscerally dislike her that much. But I think they're embarrassing themselves. It's my honest take. What say you?
No, I'm there. I mean, you said it perfectly, and I don't know if I would have said buffoon, but that's a perfect word. Frankly, I think it's tragic. I hate to see it. It's like an actor who can't get a real gig and they start doing, living rooms because they're done with Broadway. It's just horrible. And for someone, it's actually, if you just separate the two of them for a second and just look at what's happened to Bill in the last 15 years, he experienced, a surge in his popularity, his effectiveness, and that post-presidency, the work he did, he was a global ambassador for a bunch of big causes. The work he did with George Herbert Walker Bush, hurricane relief, and just on and on. Great stuff, actually. He went off to the Clinton.
He had a speech for Obama, right? Yep.
Yeah, all the Clinton Global Initiative stuff he did. And now he's almost unrecognizable. He's gone way downhill. And who knows how much of that is just what happened with Hillary and her election, how much is maybe just his personal health, his behavior. How he's doing psychologically, but it's bizarre. And then maybe he's just being dutiful and helping her get through her PTSD around the election, because it's such an unbecoming role for him. She's angry.
Yeah, and
he was past being angry. He doesn't even, I think he was past it. I think the whole Trump election really threw him into a tailspin, independent of Hillary. And the combination of the two of them now is just horrible.
And I assume that tour was going to get canceled after Maureen Dowd did a piece on that 3 or 4 months ago. It was a long time ago. I don't know if you remember. She just trashed the tour, and she said that you couldn't add enough compartments or doors to a auditorium to make it any smaller for what the audience, and that she was mad because she had actually paid for the ticket and she could tell that the whole room was papered, and it was just biting. And I assumed they're going to close up shop. They're going to fold the tent, right that day. And but I guess that tour is still going. I was in Boston over the weekend, and somebody I had breakfast with was actually going to it, and I was surprised that it still existed. But if I were a candidate in 2019 for 2020, I wouldn't get near them, either one of them. I wouldn't get near them.
I'm not sure who they're particularly close to, actually. This is just occurring to me. As you look at the roster of candidates, so we know with the Gillibrand-Clinton relationship over. Bernie never, that's horrible. That's toxic. I don't know. She and Elizabeth Warren were never particularly close. And I don't think you're going to, I don't think that would benefit Elizabeth Warren at all. So Kamala Harris.
If you were if you were a second tier candidate, like maybe a Kamala Harris could maybe benefit from doing a couple of events with Hillary. Maybe. I think Bill Clinton is radioactive. I wouldn't touch him. But Hillary, limited. But I think you'd have to be on. She could help you maybe get on the rise if you're on that second or third tier. But popping up with Joe Biden, I think wouldn't help at all.
No. And nothing from Bill. Plus, talk about yesterday's news. I mean, Biden, one of his biggest liabilities is that people are looking forward. Okay, I served 8 years. That's like snooze fest. And if his 8 years had been with Obama, not to my mind, he'd have no shot at all. It would be former vice president running for whatever. So I don't see how she brings anything other than small fundraising quietly, like events, high donor events with people who still want to rub elbows in their living room, in houses in Pacific Palisades. I don't get it.
She could do that. Yeah, she could do that. But you talk about the doing the 8 years and looking at the past. I think that's the one thing that all the candidates have failed to do so far. And there may be candidates talking about this. I don't mean to be unfair, but it's not getting through. I mean, at least not to this viewer. But these candidates really have to be talking about the future and the future job market. It can't be the old steel jobs and the old coal jobs. The world market is changing really, really quickly, and I don't know if anyone has a grasp on it, but these candidates need to be talking about tomorrow a little bit. And not tomorrow on just social issues, but tomorrow on economic issues.
Right, not just tomorrow on climate change, because I did see that Beto has a new climate, his version of the Green New Deal out that he came out with today. But you're right, it's something I haven't heard it either. And I just don't know that if the entire country is going to vote on a message of let's change the tone. Or as Buttigieg says, it's time to change the channel. It's like, okay, that's going to get old if that's the slogan. Right. And so change the tone. People are not, we've talked about this. There's nothing Donald Trump's going to say or do that anyone's going to say, wow, I'm shocked anymore. So if the Democrats are running on he's offensive or I can't believe this, it's not going to work. He's just not. They've got to come up with a message of their own. It's not just about electing a Democrat because Trump's offensive. And they're all talking about it all the time.
And then when you get down to it, I mean, really, end of the day, it's Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Florida, possibly, Wisconsin. Like it's going to come down to the Democrats need to flip one of those states. One or two of those states, and that's going to be it. So it could be micro messaging that actually, wins or loses the election.
Right, the electability.
Because it could be little stuff locally rather than the big message. But I'm a fan of big messages, big unifying messages. And I come out of the Reagan years, and it's like we want to all feel one as a country. But I suspect that the real battleground is going to be in EDs in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania.
Well, and Biden
that's
last night in Pittsburgh, symbolically they were saying the Democrats have to win Pennsylvania back. But I did see Trump's campaign manager out Sunday saying that they're looking to flip New Mexico, I think Colorado, and something else back to a red state. So if this is what we're talking about, flipping states, good Lord, that can't be your message. Yeah, but I think his point was a good one, which is we're not just talking about we shouldn't just be talking about what states the Democrats can take back. Trump's playing this game of, well, I'm taking some states back too. We'll see.
Right. At least rhetorically, say it. Yeah, exactly.
How are numbers?
I'm a little bit dubious about New Mexico, but knock yourself out.
Yeah, poor voters. How are Trump's numbers in Florida?
Let me take a look. While we're on here, I meant to check that a few days ago. I was very curious to see the numbers, and I forgot to do it. I'm not sure if there's anything that's broken out yet. But that's I assume he's holding his own somewhat in Florida. Let me just see if I can pull this up. But his numbers in Texas are lousy. I mean, he's at 49 in Texas, which they should be better in Texas.
Well,
and
is that immigration? What's the problem? Is that what that's about? Is that about the border and building the wall?
It may be border. Yeah, maybe border. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but it's probably that.
Yeah.
Approval right now is general approval on, across the board is 43, 50, 53 disapprove. I'm just looking for state polls and see if I can pull them out. But it may take me too long. I think the show may end before I can pull them up. But that would be a good thing to look at in the next show.
Do you have any idea what his highest number has been since he got in? He's broken 50.
No, he's never broken 50.
No.
But I think he's gotten into the like low 40s, like 43 maybe.
Yeah,
it could be higher than that. It's possible.
He was a little higher at one point. Well, at the next show we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about what the other incumbent presidents running for re-elections, what their numbers were as they really started gearing up.
That'd be interesting.
It will be. Yeah. It will be. Because W was running against Kerry. It was still, it was very, very close. And I don't know if he was above 50 at the time. It was right, middle of the war. And I don't know what Obama was either.
Right, and Obama's numbers were terrible for a while. They were at some point, 38, 41, like in that range, for a long, long time. And he took off at the end. But do you remember it looked like a walkaway for Romney at one point? I think he was up by 8 on one poll, one national poll, and then it all kind of came apart. I guess Candy Crowley had something to do with that, but it's anyway. It's a long way between here and there, and we will see. Yes. But Florida, I'm gonna dig at Florida until I got it because it's a great question.
And Florida's governor is quite popular right now, Ron DeSantis, and he and Trump have a very good relationship, and that can only help, obviously. And Rick Scott, who's been a huge supporter of the president, is, newly elected senator from Florida, Republican, and Rubio had come to terms with Trump, and they worked together where, on the issues that,
He's the way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Trump can end up winning Florida. I don't want to say easily, but that's not going to be his biggest challenge. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yep. It's right. No, that's right. I think it's going to be those Midwestern states, the one that always they always come down to. But there'll be a few others. I wouldn't be surprised to see, a New Hampshire in play and, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that Trump's campaign manager put on the table.
Oh, is that right? Oh, interesting. Yep.
Yep.
But anyway, I think we're about out of time.
We are.
But fun, yeah.
Yes. So let's hope no one else gets in the race before next week because we just don't have enough time to talk about all of them.
Right, exactly.
All right, everybody.
The list.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Take care.
But now, wait a minute. I'm talking about America.